JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. August 9th, 2024. A interesting week it's been, and we'll see how things play out here today. S&P futures are down about a third of a percent. They were pretty much flat and mixed between red and flat overnight. Just a huge rally yesterday. We had the weekly jobless claim numbers come in better than expected, and all of a sudden, that the July jobs report that caused the panic didn't mean as much, right? So, kind of funny how these small data pieces are moving markets. And now we're going to head into next week. We have a CPI data on the 14th at 8:30 in the morning. That'll probably be, and I always hype these data pieces, the biggest GDP number, the biggest jobs report. This might be one of the bigger CPI data pieces and releases in some time. Expectations are for a 0.1% decline month over month, and I believe 0.1% year over year, something to that effect. So definitely going to be interesting to see how the markets react. Despite the big pull on Monday, which was the biggest sell-off for the S&P since November of 2022, the VIX, and then the subsequent move to the upside in yesterday's rally, the VIX is still in it's 24 right now. So that still implies it's hit well above historical levels. So definitely something to watch. You would think it would have melted a little bit more, but I put it on the watch list. I think it'll be important here if the markets can at least chop around. There's no big reversal, no sell-off like we had. The move on Wednesday, that was that was tough. So we'll have to see how this all plays out here today. Markets find some footing into the weekend, and then then the CPI data. It's funny also, you see the headlines Monday, it's all about the crash. Everybody's talking huge corrections coming. Got very close to being in correction territory, and now it's all of a sudden it said, oh, tech sector sell-off is done, buy the dip, whatever. So it changes day by day, similar to what's happening to these reactions to the data points. Small caps right at the 200-day moving average, 207.7 IWM. Want to see if that can break over that. I think that'll bode well. So individual names, and first, I don't know why I have the slide up here of ENVX, but that's what I do. But just really quick on that one, I talked about it yesterday in regards to their factory, right? They had a big uh, factory opening, grand opening of their factory, which is great. I mean, maybe they'll make batteries, and if that's what the grand opening is, that's great. But then I was looking on FinTwit, and someone posted T.J. Rogers, who was the founder. Well, he created his blank check company, and he was an early investor in ENVX, and he created a blank check company to acquire ENVX via SPAC and automatically created value for himself to the tune of over 10 times his investment. But it looks like, and part of the deal for his blank check company was there's 6 million shares warrants out there for folks, and it's a price of 11.75. So it looks like they just filed with the earnings, similar to the CEO putting at the bottom of their filing that he's going to sell some of his shares, is a registration statement for the ability for him to sell the shares, or at least convert them to shares. So it's 6 million share dilution. So just another round of dilution for EMX holders, but that was already out there. It's not like those warrants are brand new, but if you take a look at the filing, it shows his warrants don't exercise till 2026. So it's odd that you would do that registration if you didn't want to do something. I mean, like maybe he's going to use that as leverage for something else. I don't know. So just another chink in the bear argument on the name. Rallied yesterday. There was some positive notes out yesterday, which it's like comical that you have a grand opening of a factory and that's bullish for the company. Start springing off batteries, name customers that you're selling them to, and then the bear case is over, right? I mean, it's very easy stuff. All right, so we'll see. 200-day moving average is 1088. So it held that. If it breaks under that, I think single digits, and don't be surprised if I add some more puts, possibly spec ones, $8, $7 handles. Now that's that. Take a look at Dell, and you've had these big moves in some of these names. I mean, Super Micro reported a great quarter, a split, huge revenue guidance, but there's concerns around NVIDIA and their Blackwell chip, right? That's the big conversation right now. Is there a delay? Uh, we'll find out more when Dell reports earnings, but there's concerns that it might be a quarter or two. If that's the case, I mean, you take a look at Dell; it's already off 50% from its highs at the end of May into June, and that was some of it was when they had their earnings, and they implied that they make 0% on their servers. They make 0% margin, which, I mean, I've said this before. It's like, if you're a company, you're not a non-for-profit organization, right? You there to make money. So if a part of your business doesn't make money, why would you do it? Unless margins might go up or what have you. But that was some of the argument there into earnings, and now you see this huge move, and I'm like, is it warranted? So definitely, I got those Dell weeklies, was able to lock some in to cover costs, and then of course it just sold off from then. It's sitting, it's moving lower this morning. Was taken off the focus list. So one of those, where was it, Bank of America, and so you know, take a look at the chart. It looks like a pincher, and I'm not as tight as when Baidu had that huge move. But if you take a look at the Dell chart, and I posted here, I'll put the circles on, but it's probably going to open at a pretty close pincher. So at some point, this is going to have some major reversal. So don't be surprised if I keep adding strikes on Dell, because at some point it's gonna do that 15, 20, 25% multi-day rally, and calls are gonna be up quite a bit. So that's Dell. Clear Secure. At the end of the day, I went and locked the last of my 2468s, because the company does a special divvy, so the strikes are odd pricing. But I went and closed the last of the August strikes. They expire soon. I didn't want to see the premium start to erode, especially if the stock it's already had a huge move, which made the implied volatility go up and made the premiums increase quite a bit. And now that it's just moving up slightly to the upside, those premiums are going to creep out of the calls. I was looking at September strikes. I passed into the end of the day. I'll probably revisit today. If it shows some strength, maybe it breaks over 26, I'll look to get some strikes to play for move over 30. Yeah, I keep talking about Clear. It's posted beats and raises every single earnings report. I don't think it's had a miss or any kind of not a. I don't think they've had a report that hasn't been strong over the last couple of years. They have a stock buyback. They do special divvies. They generate huge cash flow. Partners, the TSA just signed one. There's a lot of reasons why I think this thing heads higher. You have the NFL has a stake in the company. Delta, I mean, they sold some of their stake. I just think it heads into over $30. And it's just one of these quarters was going to be the beat and raise, and then the shorts are going to cover, and it's going to be the nail in the coffin. It's just going to take off to the races. Hopefully this is it. So I don't want to be in a spot where I miss out on the big move. So I'll look to get some September strikes on strength. iRobot yesterday off 16%. There was no news of Catalyst. Needham reiterated their hold rating. You take a look at the 50-day moving average, 983. It got up to that on Wednesday, and then couldn't break through it. And then yesterday it got to it and just fell. And it closed right at the lows. It opened at the highs and closed at the lows of the day. That's not the type of candle one will want to see to be somewhat bullish. But it's down here at July levels. If you can hold here over eights, I'm not going to add any more strikes. I already had quite a bit already. But if it does find some strength back over the 50 at 983, maybe I'll look to get some calls. Again, I thought the earnings were good. You're not expecting a huge beat and raise from iRobot. The most of the bull narrative or bull case for me on iRobot is that their debt levels are coming down, their margins are going up, they cut costs, and it's a turnaround story. And at some point they'll be generating cash, pay off the debt, and stock will be in the 20s and 30s, so on and so forth. So that's iRobot. Turn, just rough 2 days after its earnings. I don't understand why it sold off. Maybe expectations of something more in the report, less cash. I don't know. They did give more color on when their data is coming out, which is in September. They also talked that their data, there's no one dropped out of the phase 1 study. So I think that's all good news. I may look to get some September strikes. Those premiums are a little less because it's not 100% sure if they will release the data within the option expiration for September. October is heck of a lot more pricey, so I might look to get a few of those as well. Just not sure why it sold off. So decent day yesterday. I think some of that in the GLP-1 space had to do with LLY. They report a monster beat and raise, especially with the pound, and just kind of offset some of MVO's numbers. So I think that bodes well. And you take a look at names like VKTX was up nearly, not 10%, but 9% yesterday. I think, and it's right at its 50-day moving average, 54 and change. One of these days, that's off to the race, and maybe this could be the weekend of M&A. I've been talking about it. And then last but not least, in GLP-1 space, GPCR, which is right near its lows when it released its data. And at some point, that's going to take off back to the races. Don't be surprised if I add more strikes there. And finally, Gilead reported earnings after the close yesterday. Decent quarter, so beat and inline numbers and inline guidance for revenue. They forecast a little less EPS for the year. It's just a name. I think it's all the negativity is kind of out of the name now, and I think it generates $1.6 billion in cash. It's going to do like $27 billion in revenues this year. I just think it's in a spot where it's going to head over $80 in the coming weeks. They had that HIV drug, then that pricing set it higher. I just think that all just bodes well. Other names, so I put on the watch list, PayPal, Twilio, I got those spec calls. Uh, they look like they're going to pay out start of week. That hasn't happened yet, so I'm going to need a big move for that. But don't be surprised if you see me look to add some PayPal. Um, Also, you reported earnings after the close yesterday. Just kind of disappointing, right? They lowered their guidance, but maybe this is the Band-Aid quarter, right? All the worst is out of it, and it can head higher. Not sure I'll add anything yet. I just seems like a divisive name. So, and then you have, what was it, App? You have competitive concerns, and I think that's a lot of the reason why the stock just doesn't perform well. People think like a name like AppLovin is just eating their lunch, so that could be the case. Um, and I think that's about it, folks. A nice little poster. How did I miss the Square Insider buy? Huh, interesting. Nice share there. Let's have a great day, folks. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.